Part of what inspired this was when Vietnam veterans had been identified in the 70s as addicted to heroin. The nutshell story is that they returned, and very few of them had ongoing problems with heroin, and very few of them who made that change accessed any form of treatment. Again, it was a result of the environment. And even if they have access to morphine, you expose them literally to better things to do. That's an involuntary type of intervention.
Okay.
What about intervening voluntarily? Could we simply go up to people on the street and say, hey, you're clearly struggling with a bunch of things. I've got some things to offer you. Does any of it sound good? One of the studies that we did along these lines involved offering people choices of housing. Housing in intact buildings where the sort of the social mix was already established. It was people paying rent, going about their lives. And our responsibility was to make sure that our clients who moved in were sufficiently supported so that they would be successful.
How did that play out?
People with clinical backgrounds were some of the most pessimistic, that this is not going to work, people are not going to change, landlords aren't going to rent to you, if they do, they're going to regret it. Again, this is like from the people who are supposed to be helping. But we went ahead and did it, and it was successful. We randomly assigned people who had been homeless, it turned out, for about 10 years. We randomly assigned people to receive usual care, which here in BC costs about $55,000 per person per year. Shelters, street outreach support, those kinds of things. Then we randomly assign people to the intervention I described, where they're given choices and responsibilities and support. A third condition was people being housed all together. We had 107 people all living together in the same building with a team on site.
That's kind of like the SROs, right?
It's SROs on steroids, though. What if we were to do as we did, shift the incentives, shift the things on the positive side of the ledger that would be incentives for change? So yes, you can move into this apartment, but if you're going to move into this, you can't be having dealers and other people over to the apartment to use drugs, because that's going to get you in trouble with your neighbors. Over time, they start to think about, well, gosh, returning to work. One of the things that struck me as most poignant was when people would think about reconnecting with their kids. And those kinds of thoughts about my potential future self are closely related to people's motivation for changing their use of drugs. If people are arrested, brought before a judge, and are not presented with choices, but are instead say, look, you can either go to jail, or you can go through this intensive treatment program. It's going to take about a year, and you must remain drug-free throughout. They really need to be separated from drug using and the drug scene urgently and immediately in order to have a good chance of survival.